So the underlying concept to the risk scorecard is around including strategic priorities in how we look at and consider individual risks. So here's the idea. What if down the left side of a spreadsheet we listed the organization's strategic goals and their priorities? And across the top there's specific risk records. So let's say here our strategic objectives are A, B, C, and D, and the risk records are 1 to 8. Now, when I say risk records, you could think of this as being the actual risk record itself, the risk category, the risk subcategory, whatever level and dimension you'd like to look at. So let's take a look at risk element 1. Maybe it impacts objectives A, C, and D, as illustrated by the X's. Now let's take a look at another risk. Let's say, guess what? Risk 2. It impacts B and D. So the question is, which is the more significant risk as far as the organization is concerned? Well, you might think it's risk 1 because it impacts 3 objectives. But if we include the objectives' priorities, now which one is more important? Well, it might be risk 2 because it has impact on a 50% and a 20%. So it touches 70% of our strategy, whereas risk element 1 only does 50%. So the idea is the strategic priorities inform us of which the most important risk is. And this is important because this allows us to resolve conflicts between parts of the organization that thinks one risk is bigger than the other risk. If we agree on this is our strategy, this is our risk, this is our impacts, we have the answer. Now, we could take it the next step, of course, and talk about the level of impact, high, medium, and low, or 1, 2, 3, 1 to 5, whatever scale you want. So now if we add in another risk, we'll say risk 3. Which risk is actually impacting us more right now is risk 3. It also impacts 70% of the strategy, but because it has a high impact here, whereas number 2 has a low impact. So again, by using impact and eventually likelihood, we can scale our risks. So the final step is to add in KRIs, control effectiveness indicators, things about velocity or speed of onset, time to action, and we begin to have an informed tool that links performance and risk onto the same dashboard. So that's a quick overview of what we're aiming towards. Now we'll begin in subsequent videos walking you through specific ideas on how to make this happen.